Ben Krepp.
Ben Krepp, Boston Region MPO.
My order keeps changing here. Len Diggins.
Len Diggins, RTAC Chair, Advisory Council.
Mark Evans, did I get you already?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Ben Miller.
Ben Muller, MassDOT OTP.
Daniel Amstutz.
Oh, Daniel Amstutz, MPO member, Town of Arlington, coming into interested in the Park and Ride presentation. And I'm mad I don't have a snow day.
John Romano.
John Romano, Mass DOT Highway Division, former Big Dig and MTA employee. So that's how I've been on this board that long. So
Great. Margaret Atkinson.
Margaret Atkinson, Boston Region MPO.
Tina Cassidy.
Yes, good morning. Tina Cassidy, MPO member, representing Wilbur Mayor Scott Galvin and the North Suburban Planning Council region of the MAPC.
Steve Olnoff.
Steve Olnoff, I'm representing the Trick sub-region. I'm not sure whether I'm a voting member or not of this group, but I'm here.
Sandy Johnson.
Sandy Johnston, MPO staff, just listening because I'm interested in the Park and Ride presentation.
Tegan.
Did you just call me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're doing introductions. Just
yeah. My internet's really choppy, so this will be fun for the later report I have to give. But Tegan Tyke, MPO staff. Hi, everyone.
Tom Kadzis.
Tom Kadzis, City of Boston Transportation Department, representing Mayor Walsh.
And I see Sheila Page just came on, but does not have sound yet. Did I forget anybody else? Because my order of participants keeps changing here.
Jonathan Church, MPO staff.
Thanks, Jonathan. All right, so we'll start with item number 2, approval of minutes from the January 17th, 2019 CMP committee meeting. Make a motion to present the minutes. Anybody second?
I'll second it.
Any comments, changes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as is.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Yeah, okay, done. All right, item number 3, presentation of the 2017-2018 Park-and-Ride Dataset and Dashboard. So Ryan, I think this is you.
Yes. No, we have a lot of new people here today, so I'd like to reintroduce myself. My name is Ryan Hicks, and I'm the manager of the Congestion Management Process at the Boston Region MPO, and this is the Congestion Management Committee. And with the CMP, what the major goal of the CMP is to monitor congestion, not just on roadways, but all different types of transportation facilities. We monitor congestion on transit facilities, in park and ride lots, HOV facilities, and bicycle and pedestrian facilities as well. And today, the reason why I'm here to do this presentation is to report the results of a park and ride data set survey that we do. We've done this periodically over the last 20 years. There's been 6 iterations of this data set that's been collected over the last 20 years. And this is the latest iteration, which was collected in the years 2017 and 2018. So what we did was we actually surveyed every single MBTA station for automobile parking and also bicycle parking as well. Today, I'm going to talk about the automobile parking element of it, and then in a later meeting, I'm going to do a separate presentation on bike parking. So let's get started. The purpose of this is we would like to evaluate the park and ride capacity and utilization that is available for general purpose parking, which means for a situation where if somebody's driving and they decide that they want to commute for a day downtown, they could just hop in their car and then find a parking spot at a MBTA station that is non-permit in general. What we do is we actually collect, we count all parking that's nearby a station, whether if it's permit parking or non-permit parking, and then we actually separate the two. And we actually do two separate analysis for the permit parking and the non-permit parking. For the purpose of this presentation, I will be talking exclusively about the non-permit parking. However, if you look in the meeting materials, there's a detailed memo that actually talks more about the permit parking as well as amenities and everything else that that we collected with the Park-and-Ride data collection effort. So yes, we analyze general purpose parking, and then we also try to evaluate the accessibility of amenities near MBTA station, such as accessible parking, such as shelters, such as sidewalks and bikeways leading up to stations. And we, and this is a new element that we're adding to our data collection effort, is that we also want to monitor the origin of the trips to MBTA park and ride lots as well for the first time ever. And that's a work in progress. So what our methodology is for collecting is we typically collect on non-holiday Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays and Fridays. And we try to collect in the spring and the fall of those particular years that were collected. In this case, we collected in 2017 and 2018. And typically we have data collectors out there after the last inbound peak period vehicle leaves the station. For commuter rail stations, we typically look at the MBTA schedule and see when the last inbound peak period train leaves the station. And then for rapid transit stations, we typically assume that the last inbound peak period vehicle leaves the station at 9 o'clock a.m. And we actually surveyed 290 MBTA stations for all amenities and all bicycle facilities and things that are near the stations, which is every single station that's in the MBTA system. However, we discovered during our survey that 52 MBTA stations have automobile parking available nearby. And then typically we survey one sample day per station. That's all we're allotted to do with our budget. And actually, even with that, it actually took us over 2 years to collect this data. So since the last data collection was completed, which was in 2012 and 2013, there's been several things that have happened that would have affected the utilization of these park and ride lots individually and as a whole. Some of them are ongoing, and some of them are actually unique to the time period between the last data collection and the current data collection effort. And I'll go through them real quickly. MBTA parking fares, there's been a major change in the MBTA parking fare structure in the fall 2018, which happened to be during the time that we were collecting. And the change of parking fares often changes commuter behavior when commuters are trying to find a parking spot at a certain station. In addition to that, the changes of MBTA boarding fares, there have been some fare increases during that time period as well between the inventories. And then there's been changes in parking capacity for various reasons. Some parking stations, some MBTA stations were under construction. Some MBTA stations or ferry terminals have been closed. Some opened up. In addition to that, one huge factor that I'm going to get into later on that has affected utilization over the years is the economy. which has fluctuated throughout the years. And in addition to that, a new element that has arisen between the last data collection effort and the current data collection is the presence of ride sharing and bike sharing as well. And both of those help solve the potential issue with the first mile, last mile commute when someone needs to get from their house to a commuter rail station or rapid transit station. So here I'm going to briefly go over the findings of the utilization trends that we've seen over the last 4 data collection efforts, going back to 2005 and 2006. As you can see here, our utilization actually reached a peak at 77% back in 2005 and 2006, and there was a huge drop down to 58% in 2009 and 2010. This was likely caused because the economic crash and the economic distress that happened in 2008. And since then, our numbers have been rebounding, and our capacity has went up steadily in that time period as well, with the opening of the Greenbush line, the opening of 2 commuter rail stations in Rhode Island and various other locations as well. Now, if this is just for the commuter rail only. Now, as you can see here, the commuter rail has actually added the most capacity over the years compared to the other modes of transit. However, they did experience a similar drop between 2005 and 2006, 2009, 2010 inventories as well. And however, if you can see, it's rebounded heavily since 2012, 2013, and our current inventory, but still has a ways to go to catch up with where we're at today, at least utilization wise. It's pretty close numbers wise as far as volume goes. With the rapid transit, if you look at what's going on over the years, our capacity is actually steadily decreasing. There's been various stations that have closed here and there. And our utilization peaked at 85% in 2005, 2006, and now it actually dropped 24 percentage points between that and the next inventory, but now it's rebounding. However, there is less capacity due to various stations or various parking lots near stations closing due to redevelopment, things of that sort. The commuter ferry, one big thing that was noticeable between the last inventory and this inventory is that parking was lost because Quincy Ford River ferry terminal closed, and parking spaces at Hull were converted from public parking to permit-only parking. Here's a map of the total utilization of each individual station on the MBTA and the MBTA system. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but it's actually in the report. But I do like to mention a couple things about this. Typically, with the terminal stations and the commuter rail, most of them are underutilized, only partially utilized, except for Rockport up here. And the thing is, with Rockport, even that one station was under construction with their capacity temporarily reduced. And then with the rapid transit stations, most of the terminal stations are actually overutilized, with the exception of Riverside and Mattapan. So just to summarize everything, overall, Park-and-Ride utilization has increased from 61% to 70% since our last inventory, but it's still well off from the 77% high that we reached in 2016. And we're still as of the time of the collection for 2018, the economy was still in a direction of improving and still working its way back and getting up to that point. And our ridership was parallel on what happened with what was happening with the economy at the time. One interesting note is that 37% of all stations have parking that is at least, or have parking lots that are at least 85% full. This is notable because this is an increase from 22% of all MBTA stations that were 85% full. So more of our stations are becoming full in the 2018 inventory compared to the last inventory. In addition to that, however, there is at least one station on every commuter rail lot that has at least 30%, or a commuter rail line that has at least 30% of all parking spaces that were available during the morning peak period. So there are spaces that are available in our MBTA system. We just need to figure out how to get commuters to those parking spaces. One solution that might be useful might be the implementation of ITS, dynamic messaging signs on the freeways that could potentially tell you commuters what lots are full at what time and direct those commuters to those lots, for example. And then the utilization of accessible parking spaces actually increased from 21% to 24%, and over 90% of all stations actually have accessible parking at the time of the inventory. So our next steps is to conduct outreach for both the data set and the Park-and-Ride dashboard that I'm gonna debut in a second. We have to get this out there. I'm happy to do a presentation for the MPO if it's felt that's necessary. And any other interested parties, I'm happy to do a presentation to get this out there as well. A new element, as I mentioned before, is that we want to incorporate origin destination data into our park and ride monitoring. We want to see where people are coming from. We actually have the ability to see where people are commuting from by task group to the stations. And that can actually inform local planners and local engineers about how to prioritize projects leading up to MBTA stations, how to improve roadways, that sort of thing, how to improve commutes. And then in addition to that, as I mentioned before, we've done this 6 times. Currently on the dashboard, we only have one data set on there, and that's from 2017 and 2018. We'd like to see if we could add the other 5 to the dashboard at some point, and that is a work in progress. Right now, we have the data going all the way back to the year 2000. So it'll just need to be processed and added on there. All right, so next, I would like to unveil our new Park and Ride dashboard. This was a work that was created by our IT staff. Marjik Atkinson was the main creator of this dashboard, and Ben Krepp from our IT department also helped her out as well. So if you give me a second, I'll pull it up. Okay, so this is our Park and Ride dashboard. When you open it up, it will actually have an option for 2 different displays. There's actually the mass GIS display, and then also OpenStreetMap display. So if you click on it, it'll toggle different displays, and you can zoom in and out. But now we're just going to use the mass GIS display for this particular demonstration. All right, so what you can do is, if you go to this drop-down menu, you can actually select either a town or a neighborhood. In Boston, we decided to separate the MBTA stations by neighborhood. So it's easier to find certain stations, especially along the Green Line. And I need to mention that every single MBTA station, commuter rail and rapid transit station is in this Park and Ride dashboard, showing that we surveyed every single station for at least bicycle parking, if not automobile parking. So as an example, I'll do 3 examples. The first example I'll do is the Framingham station. So what you can do is you can select by town neighborhood, or you can just go directly to select the MBTA station and it will pop right. You'll have to select it from a larger list of stations, but Framingham will be there. So once you select the particular station, it actually shows an overview of the area around that station, and it shows the graphical polygons that actually shows the location of each and every station or each and every lot that's near the station. So if you scroll down, this first section actually shows the station information, which shows a variety of data for the station for Framingham. It actually tells you what line it's on. One big thing that tells you is how many bicycles were observed at the time of the observation for the 1-day sample, and then how many bicycle spaces that are present at that station. What type of bicycle rack is near the station as well as present. It actually indicates, are there bicycles parked at other locations, which could indicate problems with the stations as far as bicycle parking. And then it also indicates if there is bicycle trails nearby, sidewalks leading up to the stations, crosswalks, pedestrian signals that are present near the station as well. And then if you scroll down, this station happens to have parking, so it actually has a parking information section. So what you'll see here is each of the individual lots for the Framingham station and the information that's available for the Framingham. One big indication, I'm gonna start with the parking fee first, because one thing is that if it has a numerical value here, that means that there is a cost to park at this particular lot. However, if it says permit only, that means you either need to have a private permit or a residential permit to park at that particular lot. So this indicates if it's public or private. This column indicates if it's public or private or not. From there, what we typically monitor through the CMP historically is public parking, non-accessible spaces in general. And so we want to look at spaces where, again, a typical person who's driving down the freeway, heading toward Boston, and decides that they want to take the commuter rail for 1 day, they can find a space. And that's what these first two columns are. Actually displays the amount of spaces that are available at the time of observation, and also the amount of cars that are parked at the station as well, and at each lot. And then this column actually shows the utilization. Now this column here actually includes both non-accessible, public and private permit only spaces as well. These two columns right here. So you can see if there's permit parking as well. And then here, we separated the accessible parking just in case if there's a reason that a driver needs accessible parking during the time of their commute. And then these columns total up all the parking spaces, and then utilization of all the parking spaces as well, in case a user wants to find that information out quickly. And at the bottom is totaled out by stations, and these the numbers in this first section should be consistent with what's in the memo for that particular station. All right, so real quickly, I'll do two more. The example is Braintree. As you can see, it's lot 77, which was actually a garage. And then here you have the bike parking again, and then you have the parking utilization and then the parking fee, lot ownership. Now next, I can show you, and this is very basic, but I can show you what it looks like at a station that doesn't have parking, that just has bicycle parking. For example, we could try Kenmore. So here's Kenmore Station. You scroll down. There will not be a section for parking information because there's no parking near the station that's available for commuters that typically use it to commute every day downtown. However, if you look here, the bike data is still present and everything, and it actually indicates what type of bicycle racks are nearby and the amount of spaces that are present. Okay, and the last feature that I'd like to show off is that you can actually download this, the data that I just mentioned for every single station and actually do your own analysis if needed. For example, if you click here, this button downloads the bike data for all 290 stations. You click here and it brings it up. And you could do all type of analysis with it that might cater to your needs. Same thing with the parking data as well. So that actually concludes my presentation. However, I'm open to taking questions and comments at this time, if there are any. Let me know when I can unmute you. Just raise your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I think everybody can unmute themselves. If not, just let me know and one of us can, I guess Ryan gets to unmute them, yeah.
I was wondering where can we find that? Or can we, is that online that anyone can go on and use it now?
It hasn't went live yet, but we could make it live probably by the end of the week. It's all ready to go. It's just that the public doesn't, we haven't advertised it yet, and we're waiting to present it for this meeting before we display it on our website and everything. So.
See, Dan Amstis, and then Tina has a question.
Yep.
Go ahead, Dan.
Thought I was unmuted. Okay. Thanks, Jay, and thanks, Ryan, for the presentation. I was really interested in this and did not disappoint. A few questions that I have. One is related to the commuter rail stations. You know, between, I guess, over the last 15 years, between the first survey in the chart that you have and now, and the most recent one, you know, the number of commuter rail station or the commuter parking spaces for the commuter rail increased like over 5,000 spaces in that period, but the utilization is still only around 2/3 total when you look at the entire station utilization. So I'm curious to know if there's, or if you identified if there are certain stations where they purposefully increased the parking because demand was so high. Like if, some of these stations, I imagine increasing the number of parking spaces can be pretty difficult if the land is not there, or if they need to build a structure or something along those lines. So I'm curious if, because the utilization is still, it's not closer to like 80 or 85%, is this increase in number of spaces, did they increase spaces in stations that didn't actually need them, or were they increasing spaces at stations that did? I'm just curious to that, because it's pretty expensive to build in that new parking, and if it's not being totally utilized, it's not necessarily a great return on investment.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good question. And there's two observations that I noticed. And first, I'll address the the pricing aspect of it. In the fall of 2018, what they did was they adjusted the prices for a bunch of stations. It was maybe about 80 or 90 different rapid transit rail stations. And I don't have confirmation from this, but based on my analysis, it seems like what they're trying to do was they're trying to lower the prices for underutilized stations, some as low, I believe some of the commuter rail stations were lowered to as much as to $2 per day to park. And they rose the prices at high demand stations. However, it's not just the price of parking that will necessarily affect commuter behavior. For example, if somebody has to drive to another commuter rail zone, that will cost them enough more money just to commute downtown, then they're probably just going to keep parking at that same lot, for example. So that's why I believe what happened there, based on what went on, is that they're trying to steer people to certain stations. As far as the capacity, adding capacity over the years, most of the stations that that capacity was added were either at terminal stations or at stations that were kind of far out from Boston. For example, there's over 500 parking spaces added down at TF Green Airport and past Providence, Rhode Island, and then also Wickford Junction. There was over 1,000 spaces added there as well. Wow. And there's other locations throughout the MBTA system that are kind of further out where there's new parking lots and everything. There were some that are added closer to the city as well, or along rapid transit lines as well. For example, Assembly Square, there's actually a parking garage nearby there where commuters can park, and that's brand new, and that's a new station. So.
And just a brief follow-up, or just another question briefly, I thought it was very interesting on the data dashboard you showed that it includes things like bike lanes nearby or crosswalks or sidewalks nearby. And I was wondering how much of this is or would be like cross-listed on the MBTA's website of stations. You can like click on different stations and see where they are on a map, and then I was just looking at them. I see they have some information about bike parking and so on, but I don't know if they include all of the other like access information. So I thought that was interesting and useful, and I think not something I usually see.
Well, I can run through it quickly. I have to admit I haven't been on the MBTA's website that displays the individual stations lately, but I've been on there before, and one of the things that I know is that they actually use our bicycle data, our capacity and utilization. I believe they just display capacity for bicycle. And with the park and ride data, this data actually is reviewed by the MBTA, and we actually go over discrepancies and things of that sort before we actually produce our documents and release it. For example, there was one minor conflict that we had this time where at the Route 128 station, there were some Amtrak spaces that historically were not included in the CMP, and the MBTA recommended that we include it in the CMP for this iteration. And that's why you see a jump of about 400 or 500 spaces at that particular lot. As far, I believe bike trails would be on the MBTA's website. I don't know off the top of my head, and the rest of the data. Oh yeah, accessibility is a big thing that is on the MBTA's website. Like if there's an accessible platform, for example, that's always on there, and that's always up to.
We're just looking at it now. Yeah.
However, as far as sidewalks and bike lanes, that data typically isn't displayed.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking that if somebody was looking at a station or wanted to know more about accessibility to a station, that they would look on the MBTA's website first before going to look at the CMP, for example. So having some of that cross-listed with them seems like it would be useful for somebody who wants to know about that.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any other questions or comments?
Tina, you were next.
Yes, thank you. First burning question is, I have to say a quick comment to John Romano. I love your new screen name. I hope you don't change it. Does it mean that's how you feel today as the DOT loaner?
Oh, that's my laptop computer. I didn't even realize that.
No, it's your pen name, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm having fun watching that. The quick comment, I wondered on the issue of trying to find a way to direct people to available spaces. If there's a way to think about, one of those parking apps that you can download that will tell you where the vacant spaces are. I don't know if that's possible without a lot of investment of technology in the pavement. I know some of them are done by chips, but I don't know if there's something that can be done in that regard. Maybe it's a fairly simple way to help people find the ones that are available. I wondered, a question for you, Ryan, and then just one more comment, but a question for you is, for what it might be worth, is there sort of an ideal vacancy rate in terms of parking spaces that one ought to, target as an ideal for a parking lot in this situation? That'd be a question I'd ask you to think about or answer if you have it. And then just the last comment is to Dan's earlier comment. I know one of the places where they expanded parking was up in Beverly. And ironically, John, it had to do with the big dig back in the day as a form of mitigation for some of the environmental impacts. They built a 500-car garage in Beverly because, I don't know, a decade or two earlier, there had been already identified a deficit and a need for additional commuter rail parking there. So they ultimately built 500 spaces, and then instead of reserving all of them as parking, daily parking, they did dedicate afterward quite a bit of it, several hundred spaces, to support a TOD development that was, presented some financial reward to the T2 for revenue. So lots of different reasons, I suppose, why parking's been created, but that was one I happen to know about. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Really quickly, because I know we're running low on time and we have one more agenda item to get through. But typically for our CMP, we typically use 85% as the benchmark. That is like the threshold where somebody could easily find a parking spot without having to worry about scrunching into a spot that somebody might have double parked or parked a big SUV in. It's kind of hard to get in. It's that threshold where somebody could comfortably find a parking spot. So we typically say that parking lots that are over 85% utilization are overutilized.
Thank you.
John, you're up next.
Ryan, two quick things. One, first of all, great job. This is a lot of work, and it's very well done and put together. A lot of information all in one place. So thank you.
Good job.
The second thing, and this kind of goes back to when, an earlier comment you made is, someday getting so that the, the signs up on the highway can tell you, Station X has 50 available parking spaces, right? So this goes to Tina's point. I don't think this was maybe your intention, but it would be great if, whether it's maybe not this dashboard, but those signs could get tied to an app or something that people could look at before they left their house and said, hey, it's 7 o'clock. There's 100 available spaces here and 20 available spaces there. I'm better off trying to go to the one with 100, right? Because I'm going to leave in the next 15 minutes. The 20 are probably going to be gone. Just putting that out there. But again, thank you. Nice work.
Thank you, John. And I do think this is very doable. The issue is the cost, and but technically it is definitely doable. Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's two more, Ben Muller and then Ben Krepp. We should probably move on to, as Ryan mentioned, we're running a long time, so if we make these quick, hopefully.
Sure. Yeah, I just have a question on data coordination, and it might be also related to the next agenda item. I'm happy to be deferred if necessary. But I know a lot of the other MPOs in the MBTA region also collect Park-and-Ride utilization data pretty regularly. So I know off the top of my head, Old Colony does every 6 months a full survey of the stations in their region and sort of adjacent to their region, sort of similar to this. And I know we have MBTA data direct from the T sort of on a daily basis on our mobility dashboard, although I don't quite know the background on that. So going forward, is there sort of an intention on combining some of these data sets to sort of get a richer picture?
That's something that we could definitely look into, especially if they have data that we don't have. We'd love to have it because even though this was a very thorough collection effort, we weren't able to collect everything. So that's something that we could definitely look into, and then there might be stuff that we have that they don't have, for example. Like as I mentioned.
Yeah, I know. Like I don't think Old Colony collects the bike parking data, but they do collect private parking lot data, for example. So there might be some data discrepancies that might make it hard to represent, but I think it could be helpful.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to work on in the future is definitely coordinating with other agencies as far as data sharing, and that way we don't have duplicate efforts as well. So,
Ben, this is Scott. We do reach out to the neighboring MPOs, try to have a coordination meeting with the Southern and the Northern at least once a year. And this is one of the topics. Data seems to be the hottest topic, but we can share the data better. So this is definitely something that's going to be discussed in the past and definitely in the future when we meet with the other MPOs.
Okay, great.
And last question, Ben.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a couple of comments in response to Tina's point, and I believe it was John's point about some sort of an app to report on the availability of spaces at this lot or that lot or another lot. I think it's important to keep in mind that we're dealing with two distinct kinds of data and two distinct kind of data sources. Ryan and his team went out and did a sort of a static snapshot of analysis of, okay, let's see what the state of utilization and the number of spaces are at this location, and this location. And that's sort of a static approach to data collection. In order to build an app that is usable, what you need is a real-time live data feed, so that in real time it's being updated with how many spaces are available at any given lot or any given station. That's something that, you know, Ryan and his team, I don't think is equipped to do. We're not equipped to provide real-time data feeds. I guess I'd offer that the MBTA or the folks operating those lots are collecting that information every time the gate opens and they let a car in to a lot. The question is whether that data is being pumped out and made available publicly via an XML data feed, the way schedule information or vehicle location information is. If that's done, any one of the app builders out there, the people who build like transit or whatever, could easily put together such an application. It's not a hard job, but I think that kind of task is related to operations rather than analysis. And what Ryan and his group has been focusing on is analysis rather than operations. So that's a kind of a question you might want to address to the operations folks at the MBTA. That's all I had to say.
Yes, real quickly, there have been other areas of the country and other metro areas that have done this, but usually it's done by like DOTs, for example, where they monitor this. And so it is possible. And I think once you get to that level, adding the app element of it from the feed that's already there from the signs is the easy part. Yeah, that's my personal take on this. But I think I agree with Ben. This is something that our MPO doesn't have the capability of doing. So.
Totally understood.
Yes. Yeah, we should try to move on because we're running low on time. However, if anybody has any questions, if you want to meet privately and discuss anything with this project, I'm happy to do so.
Thanks, Ryan.
Great job.
No, so right, not last item, item 4, federal fiscal year 2020 work plan. Ryan, is that you or is that Mark?
That'll be me.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Okay. Yes, this is our work plan, and this actually shows like the work that we're projecting to do for federal fiscal year 2020-2021, which started in October and will go to next September. And I'm going to run through these things really quickly because I understand that we only have a few minutes left. Task 1, if you go through the work description, it's something that we do annually. For example, what we need to do is to set up for these committee meetings, it takes a bit of work and to process materials and that sort of thing. And that's what task 1 is supporting the CMP committee. And then also included in that is tip evaluations. Every annually, CMP staff does tip evaluations to select projects for the tip, and that has the CMP criteria for the tip that's done. In addition to that, with subtask 1.3, we want to work with certification activities to make sure that the CMP complies with federal regulations. And that might entail making sure we have the right performance metrics and we're doing the right monitoring, that sort of thing. Task 2 is the biggest task of this year. And what it is back in early 2013, we actually released a congestion management report that actually detailed every single thing about the congestion management process up to that point. We kind of want to release like a summary version of this, an updated summary version of this that's going to be more of an online, have more of an online element. And what it is show like a summary of the region of what is going on, and then focus mainly on chapters 3, 4, and 5 of that report, where we actually have the data for the most part, so we wouldn't be gathering data, but we need to analyze this data, develop performance metrics. Some we already have, and some that might be new for all modes that we have data for, that is. And then after that, we want to potentially analyze these performance metrics and then identify what our problems and needs are on the entire transportation network. And that comes in the form of congested corridors, for example. So, and at the end, we'll do a summary of what's going on in the region, where the region is at as far as roadway congestion, transit congestion, just moving people in general as well, based on what data that we have. And that's what this project is. So, and we project to have this done by the end of the fiscal year. And then task 3 is just various Park-and-Ride updates. Subtask 3.1 will be maintenance to the Park-and-Ride dashboard, general maintenance, things making sure the site runs well, things of that sort. Subtask 3.2 would be we have license plate data, as we mentioned before. We collected it while we're out there doing the surveys. And we processed some of it, but we still need to process some more of it. And eventually we'd like to see if we could potentially create a dashboard where a user could actually go to our website and see where people are coming from by task group, which is, I think, an adequate level to use this data for, to see where people are coming from to those stations. And I think that will be an excellent tool to help out local planners and stuff as far as commutes. And then we also, as I mentioned before, we're going to add the archive data as well, going all the way back to 2000. So those are the work tasks that we have for the upcoming fiscal year. I know we're a little bit low on time, but I could take questions and comments on the work plan as well. So,
Ryan, do you need us to approve the work plan for you to move forward, or is it just a kind of letting us know?
Yeah, we want to have the CMP committee approve this.
Okay. So is there a document that goes with this, or?
Yeah, it's been posted.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the federal fiscal year 2020 work plan. as
And I
presented.
second that.
Great, so moved. That passes, I guess. Great. Is there any other business to attend to before we wrap up? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Just before, Jay, if anybody has any questions about the park and ride or the work plan, they can get in touch with the Ryan or myself about it, and we can discuss offline if there are any questions or comments as well. Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ryan. Great work. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, meeting adjourned. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Nice job, Ryan.